Questions of Doom.
Hello and welcome back to another Questions of Doom. In this series, as ever, I attempt to answer questions that you send my way using the archaeosoup@gmail.com email address, as displayed on the Archaeosoup channel homepage, or alternatively, as you'll see at the end of this video. In answering these questions by video, it is my fond hope that the answer is not only useful to the person who has asked the question, but also anyone else out there in YouTube land who may be wondering the same thing. Now, today's question comes from Archie9604. And hello, Archie. So, now, first of all, let me just say I hope that's not your bank card number, Archie9604. If it is, it's a bit risky. But nonetheless, you have asked the following question. Dear Archaeosoup, I watched with increasing confusion the other day your video about the desecration of naval ships in the North Sea. I am confused. Why shouldn't we be retrieving valuable metals from these sites? Is this not an outdated moralistic argument? We are, after all, in a global recession, if not depression, and those are valuable metals. Why shouldn't we retrieve them? If you could answer this for me, I would be very grateful. Thank you, Archie9604. Well, Archie, you ask a challenging question, a very challenging question, and I shall attempt to answer it in a way which is satisfactory. So, first of all, let me start by saying thank you for bringing this up. I relish the opportunity to talk about this again. And I think I should start this video essentially as the last one almost ended, and the last one pretty much came to a close, by repeating what Andy Brockman said, or paraphrasing it at least, when he said that this issue should be a concern to anybody who is essentially morally active. Now, you say that this may be an outdated idea, that anyone with a sense of morals and a sense of duty towards the dead may be acting on outdated principles. But I would say that that's probably a flawed argument, if only because how we treat our dead is a defining factor of human beings. There are other reasons, but I'll come to those in a moment. I'm not arguing this from a religious standpoint or even from a overbearing sort of ethical standpoint. I mean it simply actually as a definition of human activity. How we treat our dead has always been distinctive and has often been the harbinger of human activity on the planet. So we know, for example, when people arrived into Europe, because we almost immediately start to see them burying their dead in a ritualistic way. This comes with a certain level of respect, and also comes with a certain amount of expectation that when you are dead yourself, that you will be treated in a way which is respectful, whatever it is that your culture defines respectful as, that is, of course. So this is possibly why it is a broad moralistic argument, or if you want to take that a step further, a defining argument for people, or indeed should concern us all, because it is a diagnostic element of human behaviour to treat the dead with respect, or with a certain level of ceremony, as it were. Now, the second element that I would say is important in this argument is standards, governmental and, I suppose, in terms of practice, the standards by which we hold ourselves to account, but also the standards which the government professes to hold as well. One of the main reasons why this is such a shocking incident is because archaeologists are being forever harangued by people who want to ensure that particularly military ships, when they have sunk, are treated with respect and treated as military graveyards. Now, the analogy I used in the last video was it's like allowing an open cast mine to be set up in one of those vast military cemeteries in France with all the white gravestones. Even if there was gold or silver found underneath, it would be a travesty to have an open cast mine set up there, because people from around the world, we're not just talking about one faith or one ethnic group, we're talking about a whole realm of people, see those places as sacred to the memories of the dead, if not sacred in other ways. And this really is the other aspect that I think gets my goat, as it were, is the way that if it's not in the public eye, it seems it's okay to undercut those public morals, those public standards that certain governmental departments hold themselves to, and indeed insist that others hold themselves to, in order to make a quick profit. Now, when you come to the element of valuable metals, why shouldn't we retrieve them? On the face of it, you make an excellent argument. We're all being told to recycle more and more, and also as well, I must say that to a certain extent I agree. They are, to a certain extent, metal deposits. But there is an issue, and that is that more than 1,200, I think the total is just shy of 1,400 men on those 3 ships alone, are believed to have gone down with the ships. So we're talking not just about metal deposits. We're not talking about the prospect of being able to pick up a crate, for example, that's been dropped on the ocean floor and retrieve its contents and maybe melt it down and use it for something else. We're talking about where people have died. And as soon as that happened and the ship essentially touched bottom, that place became the last resting place for all of those people. Now, whatever your personal opinions are on how we should treat our dead, the standard which we are asked to apply is one which is fairly uniform, and that is to respect that site. Now, that is, I suppose, getting closer and closer to a personal question. But when we're talking about a government, and when we're talking about an international standard, surely it's better to have a standard of respect rather than a standard of mercenary intent towards anything which may have some value. And also, there's another aspect here as well, and that is the ability to record these sites. Sometimes archaeologists have to record a military wreck at a distance because they can't touch it or they can't interfere with it too much because it is a site to be respected. But in the case of these 3 ships, we may be talking about essentially cultural artifacts being destroyed to make profit, true, and let's put to one side that they're a graveyard for a moment, but are they being recorded properly? How many more of these incidents are occurring without archaeologists being aware and being able to, if nothing else, make sure that the site is recorded for the sake of military history, for the sake of the families of those who were involved in going down with the ship, but also just for the sake of actually having a complete cultural record, I suppose, of that time period. What was it to be on one of these ships? This is one of the reasons why we're so obsessed, particularly here in Britain, with the wreck of the Mary Rose, is because it's revealing so much about life on board a military ship at that time. So, in some respects, if people come to the conclusion that these wrecks are nothing more than resources to be tapped, then at the very least there should be someone there to do what you would do on a building site, for example, and have a watching brief. Have an archaeologist there to observe, to record, and it would probably take a team of archaeologists, in truth, to do this for a ship. But if nothing else, to make sure that that cultural artefact, that limited resource, isn't just swept up and destroyed forever. So there are several elements to this argument, several reasons why this matters beyond personal ethics, or as some would say, outdated moral code almost. And that is, first of all, the governmental standard, the fact that the government professes to have a certain standard, but apparently, in the right circumstances, will bend its own rules, if not break them. The fact that yes, there are many people involved in these wrecks, many people died, and the best way to cater for all of those different people and their beliefs is to have a standard of respect. But also as well, you should care because a cultural artefact is being lost, it's being destroyed in the process of salvage. And if we're not being informed as to how many of these processes are occurring, how many of these operations take place, or indeed when they take place, then we are quite literally being robbed of our past and the opportunity to study our past as well and learn from it. So those are the main reasons I would say that you should care. As I've already said, I absolutely agree with some of your logical standpoints. Some of the logic of what you're saying is sound in terms of the economy and in terms of potentially having a personal ethical view on this. But if we're talking about those other things that I've mentioned in this video, I think this should matter because it is an issue which affects who we are and how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. And if we say one thing and do another, where does that leave us? It leaves us in a terrible quagmire, really. And as I say, how we treat ourselves, how we treat our dead, is a defining factor of humanity on this planet. Whether you believe in the same thing as your neighbour or not, it's always been an observable element of human behaviour. We tend to treat our dead with a certain amount of ceremony, be that a memorial, or be that a religious service, or be that whatever else. So that's, I suppose, the final point that I'll come back to, is that element of it just defines us as people. And I fear that if we start chipping away at that, we are in fact chipping away at ourselves. So this has been slightly rambling, but nonetheless I feel I have tackled the elements which I wanted to. Thank you very much for asking, Archie9604, and for you and indeed anyone else out there who doesn't quite know what it is that we're getting at, I will include a link to the video that Archie is referring to below. Indeed, I shall post it as a video response, so you'll be able to just click on it from the YouTube page. I'll include references to the stories that we are mentioning as well in the Private Eye magazine, but also with the Mortimer campaign. And finally, I shall include a link to the Mortimer campaign itself. So if you care about these issues, you can, at the very least, add your voice to the people who are lobbying essentially and approaching these issues, and reminding the people in charge that they need to take due care when dealing with what is a cultural artefact. So once again, thank you very much, Archie, and until next time, everybody, goodbye.